What's up, Prosperity Nation? I love it when a plan comes together. That's a shout out to anybody who's old enough to know where that came from. I love it when a plan comes together. Because today we're talking about your prosperity action plan. How the plan you build. Let me see if I can get a little better light here. The plan you can build to manifest a prosperous life. And this is actually the second part of the discussion. Last week, the lesson was how to live better than a narco trafficker. And obviously, we were having some fun with the title. But we were just talking about what it meant to live a loud, outrageous life where money wasn't the determining factor, where you weren't limited, where you had freedom. So let me just say, hey, everybody, check in and say hello where you're calling or dialing in from. Good to see Agnes and Agnes. Lisa Ryan's in the house. We got Jedi Bob Berg, Peter up in Canada, Svetson, who has already supported the show. The minute he came online, he put in a donation. So thank you. And then, of course, I've got Jose Lopez, Jorge Melendez, and Paula Z, who are taking care of business for me. So do me a favor and send the link to a friend. Who do you know who needs more prosperity consciousness in their life? And shout out to you guys who are on Clubhouse. You can follow me there at Randy Gage. So if you're on the podcast, we replay this every Monday, just for you new people. I go live 10 a.m. every Saturday, or at least every Saturday, as long as this experiment in prosperity continues. I'm putting out a lesson on a love offering basis every week at this time, where we talk about the principles of prosperity, free enterprise, and generosity. And then it is rebroadcast on Monday on my Power Prosperity podcast. It's up Monday morning, and then usually by the end of the day on Monday, it'll be up on my YouTube channel, Prosperity TV. And I'm doing it, like I say, on a love offering basis. Just the idea I just found I couldn't keep up with all the social media posts and blogs and podcasts and 8 million other things trying to take care of my clients and the people who are supporting my work, and still offer some of these lessons for people who maybe can't afford to support the work. So I came up with the idea of doing this live stream every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and put it out to the universe that if you guys support it and share it and it gets out to the world, then we'll keep it going. Paula, would you put up the link where people can share the home stream for if you want to tell your friends about it? Or I would suggest you bookmark this page because this is where all the replays of all the old shows are there. And this is also whenever you want to check what the coming week lesson is. As soon as I finish the lesson each week, then I post the link for the next Saturday. All right. Thank you, Paula. Okay. So last week, I gave you 5 assignments. And if you didn't see last week's show, I will encourage you to go back and watch the replay after this one is done. You don't have to log off and go see it, but it would behoove you after this is done to go and watch that. I think it'll give you more, it'll fill in more context and background. The assignments I gave you were, number 1, to take, and where these came from, just to be clear, these are what I believe are the 5 areas in your life that make a prosperous life. I believe prosperity is a very holistic thing. I don't think it's just money and material things, which is what many people believe. On the other hand, I also don't think that money and material things are irrelevant to prosperity, which a lot more people believe, or they would like to believe that money isn't really important to prosperity. And I think that's a bad premise. So I believe prosperity is a very holistic scenario. And there's 5 areas in our life that we want to really be hitting on the cylinders firing perfectly on these 5 cylinders is what creates a prosperous life. So what we did last week, and you can also see I did a couple blog posts this week. One is called your 5-part prosperity assessment. And that kind of goes through this homework. But I broke down those 5 areas. And then last week on the live stream, I gave you some homework, and it was that assessment. It was that analysis that you make for yourself on how you're doing. So area number 1 was relationships. And I asked you to take a relationship inventory. Do you have positive, empowering relationships? Do you have relationships that are holding you back? Are you like most people and you have surrounded yourself with others who give you permission to stay where you are? And then most importantly, do you have any, not only dysfunctional, but abusive or dangerous relationships? I see Rena Romano's in here. She's an expert in that area. So that's the inventory I want you to take, or I hope you did already. So like you really know, okay, these are the kind of relationships that I have. Here's what I have in inventory right now. Second part of the homework was to do an unbiased health analysis. Are you eating and drinking clean? Are you giving yourself enough sleep? Not just enough sleep, are you giving yourself enough rest? Calm, harmony. Do you exercise every day? Are you building muscle mass? Do you get, did I say, do you get enough sleep? I think I did. Those are the things. So kind of do an assessment of that. We have come to a consensus as a society about what health means. And my experience is when we come to a consensus, it's probably screwed up, because there's so many bad mind viruses out there. There's so many misconceptions. There's such a misunderstanding and ignorance about what a prosperous life is, that whenever somebody tells me, well, this is kind of the societal consensus, right away I have my alarm bells going off, because the consensus about health is that you have a doctor and you can afford your doctor, and you're on 8 or 10 prescriptions, and you have some kind of healthcare plan that either pays for all of your prescriptions, or you make enough money that you can afford the payments or the co-payments. And I mean, I'm completely gobsmacked at how many people have come to the consensus that you pick up an extra 5 pounds in your 20s, another 5 in your 30s, another 5 in your 40s, and we kind of add 5 pounds for every decade of your life. And every decade of your life, you add 2 or 3 prescriptions. And so by the time you're 50 or 60, you're 40 pounds overweight and you're on 10 or 12 daily prescriptions. And we've kind of accepted that as healthy, as wellness, as, consensus. So I wanted you to do an unbiased one. Let's be realistic about it, right? And know that what I just described, the consensus, is not wellness and health. The third part of the homework was to do an accurate profit and loss statement, or a balance sheet, a balance statement. Meaning just really adding up. How much do you owe Visa, MasterCard, Discover, Capital One in your wallet? What, how much do you owe on all of those? Do you have car payments? Do you have a mortgage? If we add all those up, and then we added up your assets, what's the actual equity, if you have any, in your house, savings accounts, investments, how does the scale play out? Are you positive or negative? Numero cuatro, assess if you found your assignment. And this is one of those esoteric areas where some people think this is religious, and sometimes it is. Other times I think it's more just spiritual. But I think it's really, really important that you found something bigger than yourself to be a part of. Something bigger than yourself, because that's when I think we really get to the sexy part of living, because it's so, we turn in and we become so narcissistic when we're the victims of all the programming we buy. So we're watching TV, people are watching 5 or 6 hours worth of television a night, and they're telling you you need to be drinking Bud Light, and you gotta be going to Taco Bell, and you have to have this kind of car, and you have to live in this kind of home, and you should, have this kind of a lifestyle. And they're getting us to buy all this shit we don't need and get us to do all this stuff that is not in our highest good. We're getting programmed for instant gratification, for very egomaniacal, selfish gratification. And we get programmed with a lot of status seeking. So our neighbor has a BMW and we need to have a Lexus, or our neighbor has a Lexus, so we need a Continental GT. At some point you realize this is all just narcissism collapsing in upon itself. And if you don't have something bigger than you that matters, he's going to kill me for pointing him out, but we got Jedi Bob Berg in the house. So Bob and I did a podcast a while back, and he's going to kill me for this. So we were just about to start. And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so messed up." Because Bob is a foster home for like kittens and puppies or whatever, for one of the humane societies or one of the organizations there. He's up in Central Florida. And he had been the foster home for these 2 kittens until the new home could be found. And they had just come before we were doing our broadcast. And he's like, I'm almost crying. I miss these little kittens. It was just so wonderful. It was such a spiritual experience, because it showed Bob, that's something bigger than himself, to know that, okay, yeah, because Bob's a successful public figure, doing great. He's in the Speakers Hall of Fame. He's got best-selling books. So he could sit around doing that all day and look at how many books did I sell today. But instead he's saying, hey, we got these animals that need somebody to take care of them, right? That's an assignment. So sometimes it's your job. Some of us are really blessed and we get work that has meaning. Like Bob has that work. If you've ever read the Go Giver series of books that he writes with John David Mann, he is helping make the universe a better place, right? But he doesn't stop there. So that example of fostering pets is another example of that. When I say you find something bigger than yourself to be a part of. And then the 5th area of homework was grading your mental harmony. Just what kind of calm do you have? Do you ever meditate? Do you ever spend time alone with your thoughts? I just saw a new, I don't want to call it a movement because that's probably a little melodramatic, but a new attempted movement yesterday. It's been going on a while, but I just found out about it yesterday. But it's this group of people who do a sabbatical from their devices for 24 hours every week. And they started on Friday evenings and they go, it's like a Sabbath. So they go from Friday evening to Saturday evening without using their devices, where they just want to be unplugged from the grid. And I just thought that's the coolest thing. But I do that anyway. I don't schedule it that way, but I really am one of the people. This is my office that I'm broadcasting from. And my phone stays in my office, right? I don't take it in the kitchen. I don't take it in the bedroom. I don't take it in the living room. I don't have it next to me when I'm watching TV or when I'm reading a book. And oftentimes I'll come back and I'll respond to a message and they're like, why, what took you so long? And, I say, well, I went to the chiropractor or I ran to the store or something. And they're incredulous that I left the house and didn't take my phone with me. It's just, I want my phone to serve me. I don't want to serve my phone. And I think there's a real danger happening in society now where we are so mentally overstimulated with breaking news alerts and social media. I noticed Facebook has a new thing now where now they're sending an alert every time somebody follows you, every time somebody likes one of your posts. It's like, are you kidding me? Do I really want my mind so polluted with all that stimuli? So that's how you really recognize where you are in the moment. And let me just check Stefan did that till Sunday morning, did not miss anything. Okay. Jorge put the relationships. I'm just catching up on the chat because I can't read it without my glasses. So I just want to see what's going on. Just a reminder, these lessons, Jorge and Jose present these lessons in Spanish every Saturday, 2 hours after I do the English version. They're doing the Spanish version of the preceding lesson. So if one of you guys, please make sure to put that in the chat at some point. So they do that every week. So your friends who speak Spanish, please tell them about it. Now let's get into the sexy part of the program. Let's get into setting up your prosperity action plan. So let's begin, because I want to give you, so normally, just for you guys keeping score at home, normally I do a lesson, and then at the end of the lesson, I give you some assignments, right? And your assignments are what you can work on that week to nurture your prosperity consciousness, create more wealth, get better relationship, whatever the particular lesson was that week. This week, the lesson is the assignment. Okay, so there won't really be any assignments at the end, because the lesson itself is the actual assignment. And let me just check. I got okay, so here's an interesting question. Agnes is saying, if you leave your phone in the office, but you get emergency messages and you didn't realize, well, you know what? I don't even turn the ringer off on my phone because nobody calls me, right? I posted on Twitter the other day, like, for you baby boomers who don't know the new reality, if you call somebody without texting them first, that's considered a hate crime. Okay, because if you know a Gen X, a Gen Y, millennial, what Anna calls the globals, they wouldn't even think to call you. You know, they send a WhatsApp or a Signal or a Telegram or whatever. If they want to do video, they do video. If they want to do audio, they do audio. If they want to do text, they do text. So of course, the only person in the world who would ever call me would be my mother or somebody like that, right? And so the phone would ring. And I do have the, you know, I don't know, I think it's Apple has set up a thing where if the caller is not in your contacts, it automatically goes to the voicemail, because the robocallers were just crazy out of control. So really, you know, and the thing is, because I hear that from parents too, and they say, what do you mean I have to send my 5-year-old to school with a phone? Because what if something happens, if there's a shooting at the school? You know, I just feel like we were able to survive for 3,000 years without cell phones. So how did we do it for those 3,000 years? So I just don't believe in this idea of being connected 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I get that, you know, maybe my neighbor notices that there's a burglar breaking in my house and he tries to call me and I have the ringer turned off. That could happen. So I'm not saying it can't. But I just feel for the sake of your mental harmony, it's just sick to be connected to the grid 24 hours a day. Do you understand that 200 years ago, there were people, so let's go back 60 years. All right. So now we're, you know, the 1940s, the 1950s, and I'm going to use the United States as an example, but you use whatever country you're watching or listening in right now. So 50 years ago, there were still people getting in car accidents, horrific car accidents in Indiana. There were people in New York City getting raped. There were people in California getting killed. There were people in Madison, Wisconsin who had a meteorite land on their garage. There were people in Austin, Texas who had a sinkhole, and there was an earthquake in San Francisco, and there was a hurricane in Miami, and all of this stuff happened. But you didn't know about it the second it all happened. But once we turned our telephones into personal computers and virtual assistants and 24/7 communication devices with everything happening in the world, now you actually can know all that stuff all day, every day. And it's not healthy. It makes you crazy. It destroys your mental health. And without mental health, you don't have any good prosperity. I get you. People say, but, you know, why do you say you don't watch the news? I have to watch the news. I promise you, if the Russians attack Pearl Harbor, and again, the old people will know what that joke is, you'll hear about it. It'll be on your Instagram feed. I promise you. Somebody will tell you that the Russians attacked Pearl Harbor, right? I don't need to watch news to know what's going on in the world. I have curated my Twitter feed with people of consciousness that will make me aware of important developments that I would want to bring into my consciousness. And I have specifically not followed people who are going to bring in too many things that I don't want in my consciousness. And I think we all have to do that. If you remember, the original title of this week's lesson was going to be Curating Abundance. And I changed it because I thought, you know, the action plan better describe what we're actually doing today. But the original was curating, because I think that's what a prosperous life, that's how a prosperous life comes about. We curate the content. We curate the stimulus or stimuli. We curate the diet, the everything. So let's go to the first area. Let me see how I'm doing time-wise. All right, good. Creating prosperous relationships. Let me give you your action plan for prosperous relationships. Reducing exposure to certain people. It's just a reality. I'm on a softball team. Most of y'all know that. We're actually got 3 different teams: the high division, the middle division, the lower division. So we're a softball family. So I have a softball family of almost 60 people between the 3 teams. So we share a group me chat. And you know what? There are some people in that group of 60 who I need to have less communications from. I'm in the National Speakers Association, so I'm got a Facebook group I'm in. I'm in other associations that I might be in a Facebook group or a WhatsApp chat or a Signal chat. And there are certain people I need to mute that conversation and only check it a certain number of times per week. I need to stay, there are people in my family that I need to monitor the amount of time I spend with. My mother used to be upset when I would come to visit, and I would come and stay for a day or two. Why don't you stay longer? You come in and then you leave right away. And, there's no delicate way to say this. That I have to regulate the amount of time I spend with my family at large, because if I spend too much time with them, I start to think like they do again. And I don't ever want to go back to that level of thinking. Now, I say that with complete love, right? I love my family. And I can love my family and understand that there are certain members of it that I need to limit the amount of contact that I have with them. And by the way, we're going to really get into that in depth next week. The lesson next week is about poverty consciousness. And so I just, the roll of the dice, I come from a family that contains a lot of poverty consciousness. And I have to regulate how much time I want to be exposed to that. Otherwise, I become more infected by it. Second thing, set some specific boundaries, right? And Rena could certainly speak to this, because Rena is a thriver of sexual abuse, and she works with people who've been sexually abused. She would be the first to tell you there are boundaries that you have to set with people in your life. The third thing I say is you have to end dangerous, dysfunctional relationships. You see that book cover, that poster on the wall behind me? That's for Radical Rebirth, my latest book. Thanks for the thumbs up, Agnes. Who else read my book? Is that a good book? Give me a sign. Oh, I like this crowd. I like this crowd a lot. And you guys on the replay, let me know on the YouTube channel. By the way, same thing, YouTube channel, check in and just say hi at some point. Let me know where you're watching from. There's a chapter in the book where I'm talking about some advice I gave a friend of mine. And it's shocking to people who read the book, because she called me for advice when her mother was dying. And my advice was, stay away from your mother. Put her in hospice, hire a caretaker, hire people that can help her through this transition, but don't spend any time with her, because her mother had mentally abused her. She had been physically, sexually abused by her stepfather. Her mother denied it for years. And then when there was, unimpeachable evidence of it, then she blamed it on the daughter and said, it's your fault. You brought this on. You did this yourself. And so she ran all these emotional rackets on her, which is just it's child abuse, it's mental cruelty, it's mental abuse. And this continued all the way through her adult life. This mother was so toxic for my friend's self-esteem and emotional well-being and sanity that my advice was, don't, remove this woman from your life. And sometimes we have to make those kind of decisions. And I don't say that to be flippant or snarky or clickbaity. I'm saying this is a reality. And any mental health professional will tell you. There are any of you guys who are in addiction recovery, there are people that are dangerous to your health. There are people, okay? Let me tell you, as a guy recovering crystal meth addict, there are people who, if I stayed in relationship with, would kill me. Not because they would take a gun and shoot me, but because they would enable me or empower me or influence me to kill myself with my addiction. So those people cannot remain in my life if I want to maintain a healthy life and stay alive. And then the last part of the relationship action plan I'm going to give you is this. I want you to envision the type of people you want to associate with, and then look for a pathway to doing that, and look for a way that you can create value to do that. By the way, the Go Giver book series that Bob and John wrote that I mentioned earlier, it's a perfect homework for this. But because if I see one more post about somebody saying, well, buy a millionaire for lunch, offer to take a millionaire to lunch. I got to tell you, I get 5 requests a week. Hey, can I take you out for a drink? Hey, can I take you to lunch and pick your brain? There's no value to me in that, right? There is a negative consequence to that. Now, does that mean I'm an evil, mean, rich person and I forgot where I came from? No. What it means is I've had the experience of agreeing to allow someone to buy me lunch so they can pick my brain at least 15 times. Excuse me, my allergies, I don't know what, something, maybe these flowers I got in here or something bothering me. At least 15 times. I always end up paying for the lunch, which, I don't mind doing it, but they shouldn't allow me to do that. That's the first prosperity lesson. Even though I may make $1 million a year and they might make $20,000 a year, when they offer to buy me lunch and then we go to the lunch, and I feel sorry because I know I've been so blessed, and I know that the $35 or the $40 or whatever the lunch is going to cost, I know that means something to them that it doesn't mean to me. So of course I just pick up the check. But the fact that they allow me to is a big mistake on their part, right? There's a prosperity lesson in that. They made a commitment, they made an offer, they should honor that. And the fact that it is a struggle for them, that $40 or that $35 means that, because I'm not one of these people like, okay, she's buying me lunch, so I'm ordering filet mignon and a bottle of aguardiente cristal and some dessert and some, you know what I mean? That's just not me. You buy me lunch, I'm like, okay, is there a pollo tropical around there? Is there a roasty pollos around there? That's what I eat for lunch, okay? So you might, but I get that $35 could be a big deal to you. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe the fact that that $35 that you had to spend on the lunch that you offered to buy a successful person had to involve choices and sacrifice, and you forego some other benefit to, well, maybe that would make you take the advice more seriously. Maybe you would be more likely to apply what they suggested. I just put that out there, right? But again, having done that at least 15 times, I always buy the lunch. And then I'm just shocked at the few people who ever implement something. And at the number of people who think, okay, so every every year I should offer to buy Randy lunch, and then I'll go to lunch and he'll buy. And then I'll ask him the same questions again. And I'm going to bitch and moan about the same things I was bitching and moaning about last year and the year before and the year before that, because I haven't done any of the advice he's given me. And at some point you realize this is just a really negative energy suck on my time. So forget that the strategy, well, I'm going to offer to buy them lunch, or I'm going to offer to take them out for coffee. I don't do lunch, I don't do coffee, and I think you're going to find there's a lot of really successful people who could be very helpful for you, but they're not going to do that either. Be creative. Think of a way that you can add value, right? Let's go back to my three amigos I mentioned earlier: Paula, George, Jose. They're just putting this stuff out there, right? So they're help moderate the room. You see, we got the porno stars crashing, and we get the crazy bigots who writing all the crap in the comments, right? It's been pretty good the last few weeks, but we used to get a lot of those photo bombers and whatever, trolls. So they just, they offered to do that. Jose and all three of them are moderating, doing the thing in Spanish, right? So they're all in my phone. They all have me on WhatsApp. They all can ask me a question anytime, day or night, something urgent they want to know. Why? Because they've created value for me. I appreciate, and they're my friends anyway. So, there's also that. They're my friends, and they've been my friends for a while. In some cases, a really long while, right? Jose and I were rebuilding Unity on the Bay in Miami, building back up that church. That was like 20 years ago or something, right? But there's ways to do that, and I get that. I mean, I do get people, they contact me on Facebook or Twitter, and I have people say, I will move to Miami. I will work for free. Just allow me to be your mentee. You mentor me through. I don't think you have to go that far, but Tim Ferriss was talking about this on one of his podcasts the other day about, people who offered to transcribe his podcast, or offered to do research for a book, or, there are things you can do that would really add value to that equation. So make that part of your action plan. So if your goal really is that you want to attract and maintain relationships with people of higher consciousness that can be instrumental in manifesting a better future for you, then look for ways to do that, right? Find ways where you can really add value. So it's not a neediness equation. Because if you just send a text to me or any successful person, say, I'm really broke, I'm really struggling, I really have a lot of tragedy in my life, we get 100 of those a week. This is why you see I don't post Gofundme accounts in my Twitter feed. Because if I did, that's all my Twitter feed would be. Because I have 100 people a day who say, hey, my friend he had his foot cut off by a train and he needs surgery. Hey, my friend had so I can't do that. Otherwise, nobody would follow my Twitter feed because they just say it's 100 GoFundMe links every day. There's no content there. There's no value there. Why would I engage with this feed? Right? So when you see that, it's because it's somebody I actually know and love. And, my friend Jeannie Will Kidd. Will is going through chemo right now, fighting cancer, really aggressive case. I put up a GoFundMe for him, right? But I can't do it for everybody who sends me. Same way, I can't have coffee with everybody. I can't have lunch with everybody. And this is true of all successful people. And they say, same thing, I'll just like, hey, Randy, I just need $300. $300 is nothing to you, but I need it to pay my rent. They have no idea how many of those I get in a week. You just can't do it. Even as much money as I make, believe me, I could never make enough to keep up with all. Once you become a public figure, there's just no way to keep up with that stuff. And then so you realize, okay, so I find the causes that are near and dear to my heart and I support them. Causes that help homeless people. For me, causes that help veterans, causes that help animals, against animal cruelty, stuff like that. The Make-A-Wish Foundation, right? So when people try to run rackets or guilt me and I do all kind of charitable stuff. I do. So you recognize there are more productive ways to do that than trying to handle every request for money that you get in the course of a week. All right, let's move to the second area, improving your health. This one's going to shock some of you. Set a sleep standard. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. My sleep standard is I wake up when I finish sleeping. And it doesn't matter if it's 7 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. I wake up when I finish sleeping. This morning, I woke up after going to sleep 9.5 hours earlier. Now, why is that? Well, because yesterday was my upper body workout. When I do my upper body workout, it's like literally 20 tons worth of weight that I'm lifting in different, exercises. And you know what I found? When I do that night, I usually sleep 9 or 10 hours because at my age, it takes my body 9 or 10 hours to recuperate from that effort. When I sleep in late on Mondays, usually, why? Because I play 2 softball games on Sunday and I'm out on the field for 4 or 5 hours and the sun and sunstroke and I'm running around and sweated and got dehydrated and my body takes longer to recoup. And so now you say, well, I have to get up at 6:30 a.m. because I go to my job at the factory. Okay, I get it. Well, then you got to go to bed earlier. But you set a standard, which is enough sleep for your body to regenerate. Is that Miguel Acantaros I see there practicing his English? Good to see you, mi amigo. Sleep standard, start daily exercise. Every day, the human body is meant, we're like lions and tigers and giraffes and badgers and beavers and every other animal on earth. We're not meant to sit in front of a computer for 12 hours a day, sit in front of a TV for 6 hours a day. We're meant to exercise, right? So that needs to be every day. And if you're really out of shape and that means you have to start with a slow walk, great. Start with a slow walk, okay? Resistance to build muscle. At least 2 to 3 times a week, you have to do some kind of exercise to build muscle because as we age, our muscles start to atrophy and start to deteriorate. So it's really important to have some resistance training. And then your action plan is a proactive, clean eating plan. Now, why do I say proactive? Meaning you can't, to me, staying healthy begins with shopping. right? So I know, okay, and for now I use Instacart. I get my groceries delivered, but I used to do it in person. But either way, I know that I've got to shop before I run out of healthy food and drink in the house. Because if I don't, I'm going to resort to junk. I'm going to resort to fast food. So I get fresh celery, fresh carrots, fresh cucumbers, fresh green peppers, red peppers, yellow peppers, and I chop them all up. And I got a really good Rubbermaid or Tupperware or some kind of air-proof container. And I know, so my proactive plan is I shop for healthy vegetables, and then I take 20 minutes and I chop them all up and I put them in this airtight container, and that's my salad for the week. And I have to eat at least 1 or 2 huge salads every day with whatever else I'm eating. I need the dietary fiber. I want the enzymes. I want the nutrition, right? So I'm proactive about it. So same thing, you can prepare things ahead. You can pack your lunches, you pack your meals that you take to the office, but you have to have a proactive plan, because if you don't, you're just going to be going through the Wendy's drive-through, right? And there's nothing wrong with going through the Wendy's drive-through. Now, I went through the Wendy's drive-through last night. Okay, I admit it, right? But I also had my healthy salads yesterday twice, and I ate healthy and clean the rest of the day. And I've learned, because of the exercise regimen I'm on, I need to eat every 4 hours, right? And if I'm out in the world and in my car, it's better to go through a drive-through and eat something less than optimal than it is to not eat, because then my body is just going to burn muscle. So it's really important with the kind of exercise regimen that I'm on that I eat, right? But I'm proactive about it, right? If I go through a Krispy Kreme and buy a dozen donuts, okay, those dozen donuts will be gone within 30 hours, okay? And there's nobody on earth who's supposed to eat a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts in 30 hours, okay? It's the unhealthiest thing you could ever do. So if I've got my, like on Sundays, I can eat anything because I want to reset my blood, my metabolism level. So that's my treat day. I can eat it. So I'll go through Krispy Kreme, but I won't buy a dozen because I know they'll be eating them all on Monday. I'll buy 2 and I can eat, right? So I will literally, guilty as it makes me feel, I will throw away something that's unhealthy, even though I haven't eaten all of it, because I know if I leave it in the house, I'm going to eat it again. And I'm like, okay, no, that's too much. That's the most I can have with that. I may, at the ball field, I may buy a thing of M&Ms. I take a handful, I eat it, and then I give it to somebody in my team. Here, eat the rest of this. I'm not allowed. Right? You have to be mindful. You have to be, proactive plan. So what's your proactive plan for shopping, preparation, and eating? Third area, creating money security. Your first commitment here, you have to commit to moving from working for money to having money work for you. This is the single most important thing you could ever do for creating wealth. You develop the philosophy that you may have to work for money, but the whole point of working for money is to acquire enough money to have money working for you. And I did a lot of this on the first show, the first episode you can watch of this, or go to my blog. There's a series of 3 posts. Start with Beat Your Burn Rate. Beat Your Burn Rate. That's a post on my blog at randygage.com. There's 3 in a row, and that'll get into the fine details of investing, financial statements, stock trading, Bitcoin, gold, all of that kind of stuff. Next thing, you have to live on less than you earn. You just have to. Most people live on 125% of what they earn. So they earn 100K a year and they spend 125K a year. And the rest goes on consumer installment debt and credit cards. And you got to stop that. You have to live on 80 or 85% of what you make. And you've got to take 10 or 15 or 20% of what you make and make that money work for you. And then the last part of this segment is, we talked about doing your statement, right? From last week, that was your homework. So once you have a statement, based upon that statement, I want you to set your freedom date. Your freedom date is the day you are debt free. So you look at, okay, how much do I own my car? How much is my mortgage? What's my credit card debt? How much am I earning right now? How can I lower my financial footprint, my burn rate? How do I lower my burn rate? And then I can start using that money to A, pay down debt, and then B, grow, have that money work for me. What's my financial freedom date? Is it 3 years from now? Is it 8 years from now? Doesn't matter. Even if it's 8 years, great. Set that date and begin working toward it. Fourth area, discovering your assignment. Here's the advice I give you in this area for your action plan. Make it about meaning, not money. If you think your assignment is to become a multimillionaire, it's just not going to take you where you want to go. If you think your assignment is to become the wealthiest person on earth, or to make more money than Elon or Bezos, or you think it's to become a billionaire, forget it. It's not going to. Now, there's nothing wrong with setting one of those things as a goal. Great. If your goal is to become a billionaire, mad love to you, big props to you. But that's not your assignment. Your assignment is to find something with meaning. And as I said earlier, it could be your vocation, could be your avocation. So your vocation may be that you work you drive a bus, right? So you make $40,000 a year driving a bus. But your avocation is you counsel kids in the Big Brothers or the Big Sisters program, right? And so you do that or you take a trip every year and you go to Africa and you build wells for water wells, right? That may be your avocation, but it's your meaning in life. It's your significance. And again, the key with this is find something bigger than yourself. And then the last area for your action plan is your mental harmony. So a couple of elements of this I think are important. Step one, I think, is improving your mental acuity and your intellect, because you can improve both those things. You can develop greater mental acuity, better, faster processing power, more gigs of memory, and you really can increase your IQ, your intellect. And so think of ways. For me, I love Sudoku puzzles, crossword puzzles, brain teasers, Mensa quizzes. I do all of those things to improve my mental acuity and develop my intellect. The next element that's really important in that is your critical thinking ability, your problem solving ability. And if you want a little homework on this, jot this down. Somebody write this in the comments, please. Wisdom, your prosperity superpower. That's a blog post that I have on my site. So if somebody just put that in the comments, wisdom, your prosperity superpower. So just search for that on my blog. And then the other one was beat your burn rate, right? So just search for those. Those could be some homework to help you in those two particular areas. The next thing is meditation or reflection. And if you like to do transcendental meditation and you have a mantra and a candle and you sit lotus position and you want to go study at an ashram in India, okay, great. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be you sitting in your comfortable recliner just thinking. If you read my Mad Genius book, you know I'm a big believer in scheduling thinking time every week, that I literally mark off in my planner for at least 45 minutes where I just, no devices. I sit with my journal and a pen and I think. And I'm not really writing. The journal is just there in case I think of something really important that I want to follow up on later. So that way I can jot it down, know I got some action I want to take on that, and I can go back to just deep thinking to see where that takes me. And then the thing that we talked about earlier is I think it's really important to schedule some time with being off your devices. So I always say that the single most important prosperity advice I can give you is when you plug your phone in to charge at the end of the day, do it in a room you're not sleeping in. There's so many people is that, well, here's my last tweet before I go to sleep. And then you wake up and the first thing you do is you reach to the nightstand and you pick up the phone to see who got killed overnight, what civil wars there were, any earthquake, tsunami we need to know about. That is the most unprosperous thing you could ever do. Like I say, I've got mine in my office and not in my bedroom. I do not want to be checking my breaking news alerts the last thing before I go to sleep at night. And I certainly don't want to be doing it the first thing when I wake up in the morning. So overnight, unplug at a certain time of night and get yourself away from your devices. And then just schedule some kind of time during the week. And if you want to do that 24-hour thing, Friday night to Saturday night thing, I think that's just a great, great idea. All right, so that's my advice in each of those 5 areas for your action plan. Now, Paula, would you put up the Go page, please? Now we're passing around the collection basket. I run this like a 12-step program. I believe the group should support itself. If everybody just gave $10 a lesson, we could continue this forever and we could grow it and expand it and reach millions of people around the world. That's my goal. My vision for this is at some point, Apple or Netflix or somebody's going to pick these up and we're going to stream them around the world and millions of people are going to get these prosperity lessons. Here's the page to go to. You can credit card, debit card, PayPal. You could set up a monthly thing on PayPal. You can Venmo it. If I put these on the open market, I would sell them for $37 a lesson, right? So I'm saying if you believe in the work, please support the work. And
by the way, I can learn your voice to improve your Alexa experience. Would you like to try it?
I think Alexa wants to support the program. I don't know what that was, but it's nice. Thank you, Alexa. So if
have a good weekend.
I can't say her name again. She'll never shut up. So go to this page. You can support if you want. We have an offering statement. And if you want, would you put up that slide, please, Paula? So this is I like to, as you make these offerings, I like to send everything in the universe is energy. So if you want to affirm this statement with me while you do it, it's on the screen. Prosperity begins with me. Holding this seed offering in my hand or my heart, I send it forth as a vessel of hope, healing, and highest good, knowing it blesses myself, the recipient, and the universe around us. All right. Thank you again for joining me, spending some time with me. Next week, same bat time, same bat channel, 10 a.m. Eastern. And the lesson for next week is murdering your poverty consciousness. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace, love, and unicorns.